Hey everyone, it's Jeremy with Quiet Mind Yoga, and this is a yin practice for the neck. You'll want two blocks and a blanket. Starting seated, let's come to a comfortable seat and start with some movements for the neck. As you exhale, you'll lower the chin towards the chest. As you inhale, lift the chin towards the ceiling. Exhale back down, just moving through this range of motion, and then inhale to lift. Continue with your breath and keep the movement above the shoulders. So sometimes the spine will get into this and compensate in some ways. We want to keep the movement just above the shoulders and the cervical vertebrae where we're focusing, and that might mean that you have to engage your core a little bit to solidify the torso so that the spine can stay steady, and we can start to eliminate these compensatory movements that happen in the spine sometimes. And then we'll come back to a neutral spine, chin level with the ground. As you inhale, turn your head to your left. As you exhale, turn to your right. Continue with your breath, inhaling to your left, exhaling to your right. Which way, not as important as just linking the breath and the movement here and not going super fast. If there's some clicking or tension in the neck, go a little slower in those spots. Inhaling left, exhaling right, and then back to center, chin down towards the chest. Nose comes to the right, and then up, and then to the left and down, making a big circle with the nose in one direction for a few rounds, just like that. And if you find those clicking, cracking, slower, tighter spots, go slower there. Give it some time. No rush to do this, really. We're just bringing awareness into all these parts of the neck in these ranges of motion and hopefully smoothing them out a little bit. So we're eliminating some of that tension and resistance in the neck. And then we'll go in the other direction, same thing, lifting the nose and drawing a big circle all the way down. Here you can link the breath, inhaling up and exhaling down if you like. It's not required though, it just gives your mind another thing to focus on if you notice your mind is wandering a lot. And then back to center, lateral motion and ear towards the left shoulder and back to center, right ear towards right shoulder, side to side, and you can inhale left, exhale right if that feels in alignment with your body and movement. Just the lateral range of motion in the cervical vertebrae, not the sides of the body, right? So you're not moving the spine with this, it's just in the neck. Spine is stable and centered. Back to the center, and then one more time down and up, and back to center, left and right, back to center, big circle one direction, no rush, big circle other direction, and back to center, lateral to the left, lateral to the right, and back to center. Now we'll take the blanket and get into the long rectangle shape and then roll it up into the burrito shape. You may not want to go to the thickest roll, so a little bit less than the thickest roll. And we'll just have that nearby where you're going to put your head. And then we'll take our two blocks, one at the highest setting, one at the middle height. And you'll lay back on that. One block under the shoulders, one block under the head. Palms open beside you. And we'll rest here. We'll give this a couple breaths just like this. And if you feel really good, stay there. If you want a little more opening in the neck, you can take that block under your head and lower it to one level. So now the neck is getting a pretty decent stretch here. The chin is lifting. The front of the neck is lengthening. It's a pretty uncommon stretch just throughout our day in yoga postures. Back bends do this, but otherwise, you might not do this very often throughout your day. So that feels good, stay there. If it's not any strain on the neck and it feels okay for you, it might not. It's likely that it won't. You can go to the lowest height on that block and drop the top of your head to that and let the chin lift towards the ceiling. So as you can hear, my voice is not constricted at all. I will exaggerate and lift my chin, and now it's a little bit harder to talk, and that's too far. So as long as you can still have a normal conversational tone, you're not stretching the neck outside of a comfort range. We're at about 80% of our edge here, or I am at least, and that's a good place to be increasing the flexibility. Not always the best place. The most is not always the best, right? So my shoulders feel a little crunched doing that. So I'm just going to go up a level higher. Find what works for you, and we'll stay there for a couple more breaths. And then from here, you'll come over to your side, moving off the blocks, and take that one that was under your back out of the picture. And this block that was under your head now will be at the middle height under the occipital ridge. It's the bone that here at the back of your head, you can feel that bone sticking out. And it's where your spine meets the skull. And it feels really good to massage that spot with a block sometimes. So you feel a little pressure there, and then turn the head in this horizontal range of motion that we did earlier, left to right. And go real slow with that. Just ease into any tension you find there. If you go really fast, you can go fast enough to not feel. You can always do that, it's always an option. But if you go slower, you might feel a little more and be able to relax those areas. Oftentimes, just touching and putting attention on tension in the body helps it release. Basically, it says, hey brain, look over here. What's that tension all about? And the brain says, oh yeah, I don't need that. I can let that go. I'm safe. No one's going to attack me. A bear's not going to burst into the door. But now that I said that, you might feel a little bit slightly panicked. I'm sorry. Forget about the bear. There's no bear coming. It's just the tension in the back of the head slowly releasing as you go side to side, the body, the head getting heavier and heavier. I'm not trying to hypnotize you, I'm just putting awareness on the fact that as you lay still, your body gets heavier. Gravity pulls down on the body more. And as you reduce the resistance in the body, it becomes even heavier. It takes a lot of effort to lift the body away from gravity. It takes a lot of letting go to let the body drop down and be pulled down by gravity. Next option is to take that block under your head one level lower to the lowest height and rest the edge of the block on the occipital ridge, that same spot, massaging left to right. It's a little bit of a softer pressure, and you might go a little bit further left to right, maybe a little faster if that feels good for you. And like for me, I gotta watch my back starts to tense up. It's pretty unconscious, really. It just starts to respond to tension in the head and neck and tense. So I've got to consciously let the upper back relax just by letting the arms be heavy, maybe opening the arms wider, and taking longer exhales. You might feel the tension somewhere else. Same principles may apply, longer exhales. Make any movements you need to reduce the tension. And then last, we'll move the block out of the way and then take your blanket that you rolled up in the burrito shape. So instead of going to the occipital ridge, you're going right to the neck. So the round part of the blanket is now into the cervical vertebrae of the neck, under the occipital ridge. The edge of that blanket might be pressing onto that ridge now. So from here, you'll start to turn the head left to right, and it'll be a smaller movement and perhaps slower. If at any point this doesn't feel good, just don't do it. You can just rest on the blanket. You can move the blanket out of the way. You can do your own thing. The intention is never to cause pain in the body or do any damage. We want to make this very therapeutic and resting. And then come to the center, and you might want to just stay there on the blanket. You might think, oh, it doesn't quite feel right. I'm going to make this roll a little thinner and see how that feels. If it's so thin that there's just no sensation in the neck at all, then it might be too far. If it's too thick and you feel like your head's being pushed up, then that's not it either. So find the middle ground, balance of effort and ease in the posture. Even though we're not doing a whole lot, it's really just the blanket holding us up in the shape. As always, it might feel good to titrate the breath as you're resting here. This is breathing out through a straw. Long exhales. And then we'll remove the blanket. Head down to the mat. Turn left to right. Might feel good to just bring your hands behind the neck and massage from shoulder to the neck with your thumbs. Turning side to side. I don't suggest you try to make a chiropractic adjustment on your own neck. I've had some pain from doing that myself and had to get it readjusted by someone who really knows what they're doing. And it caused a lot of times I've caused a couple of times caused a headache in myself. So it doesn't feel so good if you aren't sure what you're doing. But if you do want that, definitely seek out a chiropractor. Yoga, we're working more with the tissue, more with the energy in the body. Palms open beside you, head rested down. We're working with the spine a bit, but within this safe range of motion and more so with the energy in the muscles. So make any last little movements that you like. Palms open beside you. Big inhale through the nose. Open mouth, exhale. You can do that as many times as you like. resting in stillness and having this time to be quiet. Just feel sensations in the body, feel gravity pulling the body down. Nothing to do. If you notice tension, letting it go. And then I'll start to move fingers and toes, wrists and ankles, arms and legs. And the knees into one side. Press up to sitting slowly, no rush. You can stay longer in Shavasana if you want, as always. And we'll close the practice, hands together at the heart, bowing the mind to the heart and to each other. Thank you for sharing your practice. Namaste.